Hey everybody, welcome to NewWayStories podcast. I am your host, Jesse Roberts, and with me today is Ben Salazar Slytherin, our producer extraordinaire. And with us, not with us today, is Darius Giles. He is not, it's not because he's lazy or anything. The west side of the mountains, Seattle area, had kind of a crazy storm and a lot of people lost power. So
quite a bit of people
lost
trees
power.
Trees falling over.
It was kind of crazy. So this is the one time that we give him a pass.
Yeah.
We said, but I said, hey, in the future, tighten it up, okay?
Yeah.
Just tighten it up. That was early feedback for me from Carmen, who owned Carmen's Comedy Club in Sela. Mm-hmm. She wanted me to tighten it up, but she always wanted to host her own comedy shows, and she was terrible. So much so that I had like some Seattle comedians would come over and like open for the headliners or whatever. And he goes, "Hey, can you like do some time before me and Carmen, like in between Carmen and I?" And I was like, "Yeah, man, I can do that." But she was like, "I don't want you to open. You gotta tighten it up," which is probably accurate. Mm-hmm. But I'm also like, you're giving yourself 5 minutes of time where you get no laughs at all. And, but so I've always harbored that bitterness. And that's what we're talking about today is harboring bitterness.
Oh, okay.
No, I'm just kidding. No, that's, yeah. But I told Darius that. I said, tighten it up.
Yeah.
Ship up or ship out.
Yeah.
And then he said, "You don't pay me anything. I don't have to do this." And I said, "Are you good for next week?" And
I called him. I said, "Why do you go to the gym so much if you can't lift those giant trees off the power line?"
Exactly. What's the
point?
I would have liked a little dedication. I would have liked for him, maybe the gym has Wi-Fi and power.
Yeah.
He could have showed up there. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's... Early on, I was like, I'll, not pay for a cable subscription. I'll just pay for the $10 a month gym thing and watch all my TV at the gym. Just like kind of pedaling a little bit on the bike. Mm-hmm. You know the strategy. What we're talking about today, I call it the Mount Rushmore of heroes.
Or as I saw on the text, mushrooms.
Mount Mushrooms, which again is just... the Mario characters that inspire you. Yeah. Mario Kart. Are you like play like Nintendo?
How old do you think I am?
Not like the 80s, like NES, but I'm saying like, were you a Nintendo guy? Were you a Sony guy?
Nintendo.
You were a Nintendo.
I was never, and I still am not a gamer, but I had a Wii growing up. Played a lot of Mario Kart Wii.
Okay.
We have a Switch right now. Mario Kart 8.
Okay, so you're a Mario. This actually led into my question. Did you play like Mario World or are you a Mario Kart?
I dipped into mostly Mario Kart, but I dipped into the worlds.
Because I did like
the worlds.
I am old enough, even though like the NES came out like 10 years before I was born. I still had an NES when I was, an NES and a Super Nintendo. And so the Mario games on those systems are awesome, and I love platform games. But then I got the 64 and Super Mario World. But dude, Mario Kart on the 64 is a freaking game changer, man. That was such a fun party game. And then I don't know why. Oh no, I know. My family was poor. I never got. So we got the 64 and then never upgraded. GameCube should be the system that is like my system because it came out when I was 10.
Yeah.
I got a 64 when I was 6 or 7, I think. And then we just always had, I still have the 64 hooked up to my TV. Never got the GameCube, never got the one that's bad, that nobody likes.
Game Boy? No, that's not a Nintendo thing.
Game Boy is a Nintendo thing, but I didn't have a Game Boy either. Thanks for reminding me, Ben. I'm trying to get rid of these memories. No, the GameCube should be what I grew up with, but we just never. There's something in between. Oh, maybe it is the Wii.
Everyone loves the Wii.
I'm thinking of the Smash Bros. Game. Then you have the OG, and then you have Melee for the GameCube, which everybody loves. And then I think it's Brawl for the Wii, and everybody hates it. But then they made a new one for the Switch or whatever, and then everybody loves it again.
Oh, I thought you were talking about consoles.
I was, but I think in my head
you were attributing to the game.
I separate consoles purely by Super Smash Bros. Games.
That's your
yeah, my qualifiers.
There's the NES, and then the Super
Nintendo,
and then there's the Nintendo 64, GameCube, and then white to the Wii.
White to the Wii.
Yep, and then the Wii U, which was I think was kind of a flop.
The Wii U was a flop, but the Nintendo Switch is an improved Wii U.
And then that was the last console technically, because then the Switch is a handheld thing technically.
Right.
Anyways, we're getting off track.
We're getting off track, and that's the name of the game. NewWayStories. Here we get off track. That's what we do with our podcast. And today, we're talking about. I call it the Mount Rushmore. Oh, that's how we got off track. We call it the Mount Rushmore
mushrooms
of heroes. And I have this image. I don't have an office, but if I ever get an office, I want portraits of my heroes, behind my desk. And there's 4 people on Mount Rushmore, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. 4 heroes.
And hopefully a 5th if Trump gets it through Congress into the Senate.
Oh my gosh, that's that's the joke in Chicago is they have 4 stars that represents the 2 World's Fairs and then a few other things I can't remember. But they go, if the Cubs ever win the World Series, we'll add a 5th star. Then they won in 2016 and still no 5th star.
Oh, there should be.
I think a lot of people have the Chicago flag with the 4 stars. I think some of them should add a 5th star to the tattoo. I don't know. I think that would be cool. Anyway, but yeah, so I have these 4 guys that I looked up to as a kid, and even today I get inspired by them, and so I wanted to go through my list.
Yeah.
And then we'll ask you, even though you're
I didn't think about it, but it's okay.
Anything, but I think
no one inspires me.
I think there will be one person at least, and we know Darius's answer would have been Jesus.
Yeah, he would have made it all spiritual, and we would have made it all feel bad.
Well, and and not a bad. Oh,
role it's a great
model.
one, but
not a bad role model.
Yeah,
but
the best one.
Yeah, So, but we'll go through mine. But first, we had this guy on a couple weeks ago.
Yep.
And we got mass praise, and people were like, bring him back. We need more of Carl Champagne. And so we decided, hey, every few episodes we're gonna have something. It's Carl's Corner.
Yep.
And we're gonna get hot takes, especially when something significant,
steaming hot,
something significant happens in the world.
Yep.
Super muggy, steamy hot because he's in Florida.
Yep.
And so let's welcome to the show Carl Champagne. Carl, can you hear us? Are you with us? He is. There he is.
Yes, I can.
Yes. Okay, Carl, we're going to just turn it over to you. But last week.
He for anyone listening, he is not driving. It is a simulation. It's a green screen.
I think he's driving.
He is not driving.
In Florida, they don't care.
I thought you were gonna go over all your heroes first and then introduce me.
No, we kind of are running behind, and that's partly my fault, mostly my fault. So we want to respect your time. So last Friday, or I guess 2 Fridays ago when this comes out, Mike Tyson, Jake Paul, boxing on Netflix.
Yep.
It's the most streamed sporting event ever.
Yeah, huge.
Right? And Carl, boxing aficionado, enthusiast maybe more than an aficionado, UFC, enjoys all that stuff, enjoys the showmanship. He was the one who taught me the phrase turning heel for the WWE. That's when a good character turns bad, like Hulk Hogan in his, I I mean, there's like all famous. I feel like all good guys at some point in the WWE turn heel, right? They become the bad guy for a little bit. Is that right, Carl?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
More or less. There's a guy, we've talked about it before. I forget who it is, but he writes a song for every city that they go to, and he's just making fun of the city in his song, and then he smashes his guitar. I'm like, it's the greatest like bit ever for a heel. Anyway, Carl, Mike Tyson, Jake Paul, what you got for us?
Man, so much. You know,
Great.
a lot's happened. A lot's happened since I last saw you guys. You know, I went behind the scenes to a Kool in the Gang concert.
You went to a Kool in the Gang concert?
Whoa.
In Dayton. So, you know, my buddy has been friends with Kool
Oh, no, you're breaking up.
and Roll Hall of Fame, #1 hit songs.
Try. Oh, this is great. This is great podcast material.
Super great.
Try turning your video off and see if that helps the audio. All right, go again. Kool in the Gang.
I was just saying Kool. Yeah, #1. I mean, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. #1 most selling. I think, I don't know. They've got a ton of records. They were a big deal. My buddy's been playing in bands with them since the 1970s when he was 15 years old. And so he's best friends with Kool in the Gang. And I got to go to behind the scenes VIP, you know, all of that stuff. But I danced with a lot of old ladies. And you know, I like to give them the twirl, and I like, you know, I was flirting with them. We were playing, having fun. We were having a good time,
making them feel young again.
You know, when you were giving them a twirl, or when you were hitting certain dance moves, you could tell their knees were the first thing to go. So, you know, I'm 37, 38 years old. I was the youngest person there. You know, everybody was in their late 60s, and you know, the same age as Mike Tyson. And you could tell the first thing to go with their knee. When Mike Tyson got in the ring, the first thing to go was his knee.
Yeah, the legs are bad. The legs were really bad.
I thought it was the back of his shorts that went first. Because everyone saw his butt.
Those legs were wobbly.
Did no one else see that?
What are you talking about?
Carl, did you see that?
What?
Did you not see Tyson's cheeks on live TV?
His cheeks? Oh, his butt cheeks. Yeah, I saw that.
When was that? How did I miss this?
It was like the pre-show interview in the locker room. He like walks away and like the back of his shorts are gone.
Oh, I wasn't watching the pre-show interview.
Thank gosh. It was brutal. And Jesse, he did his weigh-in. He did his weigh-in in a Versace bikini thong, like European bikini thong.
I did.
And then grabbed.
I saw that clip. That was an interesting choice. That's the theme, I think, of the fight was interesting choices. Yo, Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson. Interesting choices. Tune in live on Netflix. All right, first thing to go, the legs. And you're absolutely right. He's not bouncing around at all. He's flat-footed immediately.
Yeah, I mean, when I look back on the fight, here's what I see. Jake Paul was able to manifest something into reality out of nothing, and he did it in front of your eyes 5 years ago. 5 years ago, he had his first professional fight. He's a YouTuber. He knocks out a basketball player named Nate Robinson. Knocks him out completely cold, flatline, kills him.
Yeah.
You're like, whoa, but that's a basketball player.
Right.
He says after that fight, you wait, I'm going to fight Mike Tyson. And everybody laughs, and everybody thinks it's ridiculous, and it doesn't make any sense, and how could it ever happen? And you saw somebody work so hard, take so many steroids, lose relationships, buy the best trainers, just devote themselves entirely to this ridiculous cause and created it into reality. I mean, that's the real story of what we saw 2 Fridays ago.
It is kind of wild. Like I was at Walmart the other day, not to brag, and they're selling a Snoop on the Stoop, right? It's like the elf on the shelf.
Yeah.
But Snoop Dogg themed like Christmas paraphernalia.
So he can just sit.
And here's the thing.
Snoop Dogg has taken over Walmart.
Here's the thing is there's a skill and creativity to say this is where I am now, and in 5 years or 10 years this is where I'm gonna be. And a YouTuber being like, I'm gonna box Mike Tyson is like such an absurd thought. One, because you're like, isn't Mike Tyson like in his 50s? But also, it's just you're a YouTuber. Like, why would Mike Tyson have anything to do with you?
Yeah.
When Snoop Dogg dropped his first album in '92, Doggy Style, do you think he was like, yo, homie, in 30 years, in 32 years, I'm gonna be Snoop on the Stoop. I'm gonna take over Walmart like a gangster. Like there's no you go, I'm gonna rap so hard. I'm gonna rep Compton so hard that I'm gonna comment on the Summer Olympics.
Who's in
2024?
Who's the old lady he's always with? In the
Martha Stewart. He goes, I'm gonna rap so hard and kill so many motherfuckers that I'm gonna have a cooking show with Martha Stewart.
Ben, you took it from me. All gas, no cap. Want to guess where he learned all that stuff from?
Martha.
He learned it from shit with Martha Stewart.
I mean,
like you get stoned around Martha. If you're getting stoned around Martha Stewart with all the ideas and knowledge that she has, you start coming up with some crazy ideas and thinking they're possible when you get stoned hanging around Martha Stewart.
It's
guaranteed.
It's a great point. He goes, "Hey, you got to hook me up with some of your contacts. Like I want to have my own cooking line." Yeah. You're like, "Yeah, sure, Snoop. But you can do anything you want.
Don't do drugs. They're not good. Like he could have done it without marijuana. I'm sure.
Not in this. I don't think not in this case. I think mostly I'm not an advocate for drugs, but every now and again they pay off. It's a big risk.
You were complaining about earlier in the episode not getting a GameCube from your Nintendo 62. The transition from a Nintendo 64 to a GameCube.
Yeah.
Because you were poor.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, child of a single mother who was never around, worked at a dog track at Daytona Beach all day, and then left me home alone from 9 in the morning till 11 o'clock at night. I had no gaming system whatsoever. I used to ride my bicycle 2 miles at like 9 years old to the Blockbuster. After eating ketchup packets as my meal at Wendy's, I would go into like Wendy's or McDonald's, stuff like that, and just eat ketchup packets.
Oh, God.
And then I would...
you'd rent a 64 system?
No. They had display models. And like most people would go there to like rent a movie, and then they would play the Nintendo 64.
Yes.
I went up there solely with the intention of playing Star Fox and Mario Kart until they kicked me out.
They go, this kid's not checking out a movie.
Dude, yeah, I mean, I was a menace back then. I used to play hide and go seek with my friends in Kmart. I watched, what's the Michael Jordan Air Bud movie? Not Air Bud, but...
Space Jam?
Yeah, Space Jam. I watched Space Jam on a Stock Boys ladder on the TVs at a Walmart. No, Kmart.
I mean, that is... Yeah, you're right. That is a little rougher.
Yeah.
Listen.
No, not comparing. Just that you brought back some memories. Yeah. And I wonder sometimes how I'm able to maneuver in the world the way I do and do all the crazy stuff that I do. Did I ever tell you about the time I threw a snowmobile off a giant mountain at 60 miles an hour, almost into Post Malone's apartment?
No. That's
a story for another time.
That's a story.
But
Well,
I wonder how I'm able to maneuver in the world the way I am. And then when you said that about the GameCube and the 64, reminded me of like verbal jujitsuing, 17, 18, 19-year-old Blockbuster employees at 10. You know, and getting them to let me stay and play video games.
Yeah. 9 and 10, you learned like an insane amount of resourcefulness just to like fill your time.
Right.
That's wild. Okay, let's wrap up Jake Paul, Mike Tyson. You're right. That is the story. It is insane like what he's been able to accomplish and how he's been able to do it. And it's not just luck, right? It's not like he's created a following, he's created something, and he's turned heel, right? People love to hate. Like 108 million people tuned in to Netflix and hoped to God that Mike Tyson could turn back the clock and knock out Jake Paul. Right. That was what everybody was hoping for, myself included. It would have been amazing. But then in the end of round 2, you go, oh, wait a second. Mike Tyson's 58 years old. And then 108 million people tuned in just purely to be disappointed at the end of it. Carl, were you disappointed? Like when it
Not at all.
It wasn't finished?
No.
I mean, it was a terrible fight.
Yeah, it wasn't good, and Jake didn't really look good. I don't know if he was trying not to hurt him or if he's really that bad, because I didn't think he was that bad. He had a great jab. He had a really long, stiff, from the shoulder, unbelievable jab. He could have killed Mike Tyson, it looked like. So we'll have to see what he does next. Yeah,
I would like to see him box like an actual professional fighter.
Well, he'll lose. Yeah, he'll lose. He already did that with Tommy Fury. He's got to fight other semi-professional.
Well, and then like the other thing too is like you're like, well, he fought Anderson Silva and who's the Huntington Nate Diaz.
That's the Huntington Beach bad boy.
The Huntington Beach bad boy.
You'll get killed for that. That's Tito Ortiz. No.
Oh, that's what I thought. But he's from Huntington Beach. He's like a Tito product, isn't he?
Stockton.
Oh, okay, my bad.
Stockton, mother effer.
Maybe. Oh, okay. Doesn't he fight out of Huntington Beach? Anyway, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, he's Stockton.
But he has like he's always known for his jab, right? Nate Diaz. Yeah. But his jab with 4-ounce gloves, and he just like clips you and then wraps you up and puts you in a jiu-jitsu hold. And so all of a sudden you're boxing with 14-ounce gloves. Those jabs don't really mean anything. And so
I was at that fight.
Really?
I was at that fight. Yep. And it was the first time ever. I was at that fight in Dallas with my buddy who, man, beautiful story, was having a really rough life, like unimaginable alcohol, stuff like that, and like really bad. And he found Jesus slowly, and now he's completely saved, completely a year sober, and he's about to have his first baby.
Wow, that's awesome.
Amazing.
It is amazing.
Yeah. And on that trip, I got him to walk out of his first ever restaurant.
Like the first time he walked out, or you like introduced him, you go, hey, this is your first restaurant, and you know what?
No.
The power move here, we're walking out.
I taught him how to leave a place if you're not happy about something. He had never experienced before. We were supposed to get this amazing special for the restaurant week that was going on.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, it was really fancy. They sit us down, the whole deal. For whatever reason, they told us they couldn't do it. And I was like, bro, let's leave. And he started looking at other stuff that was super expensive. He's like, let's just stay. I made him leave.
Oh, yeah. You're like, we're here purely for this? Yeah.
He didn't know you couldn't do that.
Yeah. I will say that I don't have the energy to then make another decision on where I'm eating. So I'm like, well, we're already here. Yeah. So, yeah. But I totally respect the, hey, we're here for the restaurant week special and you can't do it. Like, we're going to go get a burger somewhere else.
But the Jake Paul fight, Mike Tyson, it was a spectacle. It broke Netflix.
Dude, Netflix has got to get it figured out, man, because they're doing the NFL on Christmas Day, and they're not going to have 108 million people. But like you can't. They tried to have a live reunion thing for Love Is Blind or whatever, and that crashed. And then they tried the Netflix, or I mean the Jake Paul fight, and that was like lagging. You know, if they want to get into the live streaming game, you got to figure it out.
Well, you guys got heroes to talk about.
I got heroes.
Next time I come on, and I'll tell you the snowmobile story.
I know your hero, but I want to see if I got it right. Who would you say your hero is?
Oh man, I didn't really think. Honestly, this might be bad. Andrew Tate, maybe.
I don't even know who that is.
It's pretty controversial. Pretty controversial
really
pick.
bad.
Well, that's what these corners are for.
Yep.
Another one that's not great that I thought you were going to say is Conor McGregor, but you
I love me some Conor.
You like Conor McGregor for he came from nothing, and then he was UFC champ, and then he made his own whiskey and all this. Like he really is like a self-made man, and then he made some interesting choices.
He was possessed with his goal, and was so focused on that. And then once he hit it, the enemy came after him, man. And it's pretty. I mean, he literally, like you said, turned nothing into something. And then if you're not careful, the enemy will find his way in. It happens to Puff Daddy. It happens to all these people. It's really bad stuff out there.
Yeah, I mean, that's all of our goals. Don't end up like Puff Daddy. That's goal number one.
Yeah.
There's a few more. There's a few more that you can check on after that. But if you don't end up like Puff Daddy, you're at least somewhere in a slightly better spot. All right, Carl.
I'm switching my answer from Andrew Tate
to Puff
Jesus.
Daddy.
To Jesus.
Yeah, I'll take Darius. I'll take Jesus.
All right, excellent, Carl.
Hi guys.
You're my hero, man. Thanks for jumping on. Is he off? All right. He's at least muted. All right. So here are I'm going to break this down. We got 4 heroes, icons. This is from like early days to now. I'm still inspired by these people.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. We're going to start with a guy. If you're watching this on Spotify, you can see this magazine. We're going to start with a little guy named Bruce Lee.
Just a little
guy. Bruce Lee. I was in the grocery store this morning.
Whoa.
And this was on the magazine rack at...
Can I see it?
Yeah. That was on the magazine rack at Rosar's. And I was like, I was going to talk about Bruce Lee today. This is a sign.
Yep.
This is a sign that I got to talk about this guy. I have taken my picture on Bruce Lee's grave. I'm sitting crisscross with my nunchucks in between Bruce Lee and Brandon Lee's grave in Seattle.
You should send that to me so I can put it on the thing.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of my favorite pictures. Bruce Lee is born in he's born in Seattle. Moves to Hong Kong as a kid. Starts training. Kind of famously the movie Ip Man. IP Man, depends on what Yip Man, whatever. I know non-Kung Fu fans are like, have you seen IP Man? I go, yeah. Yip Man? Yeah. Yes, I have. Anyway, he trained Bruce Lee when Bruce Lee was a kid, and then all of this stuff. But then Bruce Lee, he grows up, he moves away from Hong Kong, moves back to Seattle, he studies philosophy at UW, and he begins creating a fighting style, which is he's kind of known as the first mixed martial artist. And so you have tradition of Kung Fu, and it is like you have to do this style. And when you fought or when you did exhibition stuff between other Kung Fu dojos, that's not the right word.
Dungeons.
It was the point was which practitioner is better, right? You go, I'm this style of Kung Fu because I had this master.
Mm-hmm.
And you think about an apprentice of somebody, they they're continuing on the legacy and the style that they taught you, right? And so Bruce Lee was the first one to say, well, I like a little bit of this and I like a little bit of this, and I'm just going to take them all. And so he created Jeet Kune Do, and kind of what Carl was talking about, you have this goal and you just you give yourself to it. And so he created Jeet Kune Do, and then he started teaching white people in America. And well, not just white people, but non-Chinese people. And that was like a huge thing. People hated it. And then, so he's a real, I was just showing Kate the 1-inch punch. He's like knocking people off their feet with a 1-inch punch. It's incredible. And then he's, in movies and TV, and just his dedication and creativity, and like a real trailblazer. And, he died young, which I think adds to the lore of it, just being, transparent. But I read this book, The Evolution of a Martial Artist. It's all about Bruce Lee. It's incredible. And Enter the Dragon is still like one of the best like movies, definitely like top 3 kung fu movies of all time. It's so good. And he shaped like, one, everybody wanted to be like Bruce Lee. So you have this whole kung fu movement in the 70s, and it's like because of Bruce Lee. But then you have now action movies and fight scenes and choreographs that you're like, it's because of Bruce Lee. He's a stud. And I wanted to like do nunchucks because Bruce Lee's awesome. And I would pretend I would like scratch my chest with my fingernail so I'd get a little bit of a red like mark, because at the end of Enter the Dragon, he's fighting a guy with a claw. Han. And so he's got these sick marks on his stomach, and he's fighting Han. What a great movie. So Bruce Lee, that's number 1. Inspiring. He's fearless. He does what he wanted to do. He accomplished it. And how
did he die? I know he died. But I don't know.
So mysterious death. He had a headache, like a really bad headache, and
I have those.
And then the actress that he was like visiting, talking about the next project, she gave him a pill for the headache, and he like
Leah's given me one of those.
Laid down on the couch.
I've done that.
Yeah. Fell asleep, fell into a mysterious coma, never woke up. So that was unfortunate to say the least. I said, I had a joke that, a big part of Jeet Kune Do, Bruce Lee's thing is mind over matter, right? Mind over matter. But you know how Bruce Lee died? A brain swelling, which goes to show you too much of a good thing can be bad.
That's really good.
Because brain swelling, fell into a coma.
So do people think that that actress murdered him?
There was like an investigation in talks. It was deemed an accident, but they were like, this lady offed Bruce Lee. But
who's this lady?
I forget who she is.
I'm just gonna look up who killed Bruce Lee.
Who killed Bruce Lee, and it's the movie industry following his death. When they tried to, the whole bunch of terrible actors that are trying to be Bruce Lee wannabes. But anyway, man, he's a stud, and that Enter the Dragon, that movie, again, not a Bruce Lee line, but there's Williams, the character, is one of my favorite lines ever. He's, kind of this big afro black guy, and Han, the bad guy's trying to recruit him to work on Han's Island. He goes, you can come here, work in opium. They're doing opium stuff, and Williams is like, man, you come straight out of a comic book. And then they fight, and it's awesome. But Williams dies, R.I.P. So Bruce Lee, freaking the man. I love it. Next one, we're going to shift. We're going to keep it going with dead heroes.
Okay.
Dead heroes.
They're only good heroes if they're
dead. I do find it's always interesting to me, like how people are created. Like what are their experiences? We're talking with Carl, like you have these experiences of like trying to just be resourceful when you're 9-10 years old, and that like manifests itself later and you don't even realize it. But then it's also like interests, and I have this weird like overlap of interests where I really love kung fu, but I also like really love mountain men and like early pioneer guys and Wild Wild West. I like did trivia this last week, and I'm like asking like art house film questions, but then my final one was about the gun that won the West, the Winchester 73. It's just like I am like the best and worst parts of your dad. That is like, or grandpa. You're like, give me a good book on a submarine and I'm all in. So the next one is Davey Crockett. Davey Crockett died in the Alamo. You might know him from Fez Parker's.
And we'll never forget the Alamo.
You'll never forget the Alamo. You know, portrayed by John Wayne and Billy Bob Thornton in the Alamo as well. A few other people. But I grew up like with the Fez Parker 50s movie, right? My grandma would show me the Davey Crockett, and it's awesome. So here's his story: is he's a normal like pioneer guy, and then his wife dies young, and that's kind of sucky. Not kind of sucky. That's obviously sucky. but he's a stud.
That's kind of a bummer.
He's like a stud pioneer guy. He's striking out west. He's creating a new life for himself in the wild frontier. And then his wife dies, and so then he goes into politics. Okay, so Nashville or Tennessee, he's a representative from Tennessee, and they signed Andrew Jackson. They signed this bill, right? When he's fighting in the one of the Indian Wars. I should know that. Battle of the Creek Indians. And they come to this agreement where they go, hey, you can have all of this land. And Davey Crockett's like there, right? He fought for it, and now he's in the Senate. And Andrew Jackson, who was Davey Crockett was a supporter of, wants to renege on this, agreement. They say, hey, we're going to give you this land, and now Andrew Jackson wants mass expansion. And so they try to, Davey Crockett's anti that, right? He has this famous saying, that be sure you're right, then go ahead, right? That's kind of the be sure you're right, then go ahead. So it's like know what you're gonna do, and then do it, and stick to your guns. And so he fought like he was on track. Obviously you'd have to have history play out in a certain way, but he was on track to be the next president of the United States. And he goes, no, like we cannot take back our word to the Native Americans. We promise them something, and if we do that, then what good is our promise? And we can now see that in today's world where there is still a rift between the white man and Native Americans, because what good is white man's word, right? What good is our government's word? Because we make a promise and then we go back on it, and it's terrible. And so he fought for that, and he ultimately lost his political career because of that. And so they didn't vote him back in. He opposed Andrew Jackson, even though he was a supporter. And Andrew Jackson is like Tennessee's hero, right? Old Hickory. And so lost his political career. And that was when he said, you may all go to hell. I'm going to Texas. And so then he went to the Alamo because he heard about a small like fort that is being oppressed by this huge Mexican army, and he goes, I'm going to go fight for them. And that's ultimately how he died. Again, sticking to his morals, sticking to his guns, saying these people don't have a voice that is effective, and I'm going to go fight for those people. And so created power for himself, and he used it to defend others. And it also helps that there's an awesome movie made about him. I watched the 55 Davey Crockett, King of the Wild Frontier, maybe like 6 months ago. I cried at the end. I know he's dying in the Alamo. I know. It's not. I've seen it dozens of times. I cried. And then a couple years ago, I got to go to the Alamo, got to take pictures with his statue and Jim Bowie's statue, and I'm like, this is awesome. There was like the day the bugles went silent, I think is what it's called. Old guy, 80 years old, selling a book on the Alamo. And I go, I'm going to buy this. And I had him sign it, and it was awesome. I was like, my Alamo journey is complete. 1836, the Alamo. Ben's fact checking me.
Yes.
Right now.
Well, I'm looking at, you keep pulling out a bunch of stuff. Now I'm looking at the Bugles Are Silent, the book.
Yeah.
What did you want me to, and then I looked up the movie.
Oh, that's it. I mean, you don't have to.
Davey Crockett, King of the Wild Frontier, 1955.
Yep. And then after that, somehow after he dies, they come out with the River Pirates, Davey Crockett, the River Pirates, which is also great, and that's about Davey Crockett and another kind of folklore type guy, Mike Fink. Which actually, if you ever read Space Pioneer, there's two brothers in it. The space pirates are called Fink and Jocko, and it's after Mike Fink and his like henchman Jocko from Davey Crockett and the River Pirates.
There you go. I love that stuff.
Yeah, and there's another line in Space Pioneer that he goes, "Hey, do you remember when we learned about like the pioneers of the past? Right? There's like this class that they had to take." He goes, "I think one of them said, 'Be sure you're right, then go ahead.'" Davey Crockett line that is like, "Hey, I'm going to support you, but like make sure that you are right."
Did you know there was a new Davey Crockett movie out?
What?
Yeah, it came out this year. It had 4.8 out of 10 on IMDb.
Oh boy.
But an 80% on Rotten Tomatoes?
What? It didn't come out in theaters.
Yeah, it's on Prime.
I know what I'm watching later today.
Yeah, the critics loved it on Rotten Tomatoes, but the audience hated it.
Really?
Yeah.
Who plays Crockett?
Oh my gosh.
Just made my day, man.
I can't believe I've never heard of this.
Ang Lee is doing a new biopic for Bruce Lee, and I'm super pumped.
William Mosley.
Mosley.
I don't see anyone else in here that's any like recognizable.
Interesting.
Yeah. Well, there you go. Now you got something to watch.
Well, we'll keep you guys updated.
I don't know if it'll be good, but
moving right along. So you've got an innovative guy in Bruce Lee that has a goal and he like moves forward, and then you got Davey Crockett, knows what he wants to do, fights for the little guy, freaking love it. Ultimately dies for his cause.
And great sayings.
I have a mug that says "You can all go to hell. I'm going to Texas."
Yeah, that's such a.
It's awesome. It's we don't want you guys to go, but
or Texas.
No, Texas is fine.
Yeah,
depends on where you are. The next one we're gonna shift a little bit. The next one, Travis Pastrana. Travis Pastrana, number 199. He is a motorcycle rider. If you don't know who he is, and then ultimately like a stunt guy. So he won X Games. Was it X Games 99 maybe for like freestyle when he was 16 years old, and he raced motocross for a bit. And then he just like was a stud in the motorcycle world, doing a whole bunch of world's firsts. He's the first to do a double backflip on a motorcycle, just doing like absurd amounts of things, which is amazing. And every time I watch like Travis Pastrana or like old videos, Nitro Circus stuff, I always get inspired just like watching him. And I think Kate and I were talking about this. I am classic dude. I think when I see that and I'm like, I want to go out, do something, right? I want to get some parkour flowing. I want to like push myself, do a backflip off of a cliff or something. Like I gotta try.
It was 99, I believe.
99. Yeah. What a year for the X Games.
Yeah, what a year just for anything.
99, you got The Matrix.
Yep.
You got Wild Wild West with Will Smith.
You have The Phantom Menace.
The Phantom Menace. You've got Tony Hawk landing the 900 on a half pipe.
Yep.
Like the Birdman, the GOAT. And then you've got TP, the Wonder Kid, doing motorcycle, like motocross. Incredible. But here's the thing that inspires me the most about Travis Pastrana is that he brings out greatness in everybody around him. He will encourage people and teach people and push people to do their best. And whenever you get around Travis Pastrana, you just up your game. He has tons of people that go to like they call it the like Pastrana Land, his home and shop out in on the East Coast. And it's the first time they ever get on a motorcycle. They ride around for a little bit, and then by the end of the day, he has them backflipping into a foam pit. First day riding a motorcycle, right? So he's like encouraging. I remember Jim DeChamp, who is a mountain biker. He was the first one to land a front flip on a motorcycle. Previously, he broke his back trying the trick, and so he does the front flip, and he lands like with his feet on the ground, so it's not a land. He does it, but it's not a land. Pastrana goes, yo, try one more time before the pain sets in. Because there's that moment of adrenaline where you're like, I can still do this, and it's fine. And so he did it. And then I just want so he landed it. And then he's 40 years old now, maybe a little older than 40. But he's like, try one more trick. And he jumps up.
41.
He jumps up onto this platform that's like way up there. And then he tries to like backflip off of it from just a straight platform. And he lands into the balloon, like the huge like bag. But it still is like, he lands upside down, right? And he breaks his wrist. It's like first trick of the day, breaks his wrist. He goes, this isn't even the trick that I came out to like try to accomplish. But it's cut, it's broken. And he goes, I just need to be able to grip. And what he does is he backflips and his front tire hits the platform. And then he grabs his front brake and goes into a front flip. So it's backflip up onto a platform, hits his front tire, and then front flips. He does it with a broken wrist. Broken wrist. He's like, I think I can do it. I think I've got, before the pain really sets in, they show like next day it's crazy swollen. It's like after the pain sets in. But he's able to do it because he just has creativity. He wants to try stuff. He does world's firsts. But then he pushes people to do it and to be better. And that to me is insane. I absolutely love it.
Mm-hmm.
So that I want to be around people who bring out the best in me, but I want to empower people. That is
so. When did he die?
TP's still alive. Still alive. Although he has a documentary called 199 Lives, and there's so many close calls. He's like backflipping into the Grand Canyon, and there's one time he does one backflip, two backflips, and he goes, I've got time for another backflip, and he does it, and then he pulls his chute, and it's literally like a second after his chute opens, he hits the ground. He hits the ground hard. He's like, I thought I was a lot higher up than what I was. Insane. And then he also recreated the scene at the end of Point Break when Keanu Reeves jumps out without a parachute, lands on Bodhi, and then they have to pull the parachute together. Pastrana jumps out without a parachute.
Yeah.
And then another, a parachute guy comes and straps him in while they're in the air and then pulls. And it's
I'm watching it right now.
Yeah.
It's so dope.
It's insane. So Travis Pastrana. Now
this guy's sick.
Writer, filmmaker, my last one.
Yep.
And I think the reason we're doing this, Mount Rushmore of heroes and inspiration, is because I think I want you to kind of look through everything and be like, oh, what a weird thing for Jesse to have all of these things, but then it makes kind of a unique Jesse in my creativity and what I'm doing. And so hopefully you can think through your heroes and think through what has inspired you. Last one for me, and I talk about him often. I went back and forth on Tony Hawk and then this guy. But I was like, Travis Pastrana kind of already covers the extreme sports. Mm-hmm. But Tony Hawk is the exact same as Travis Pastrana, just with a skateboard. He brings people together, brings out the best in them, but he also is doing insane first stuff. And he's now in his 50s and he still is skateboarding. It's insane. Last one for me, Michael Crichton, the author of Jurassic Park. I mean, he has so many books that are so good and so entertaining. You've got Jurassic Park, you got Andromeda Strain, you've got Congo, you've got The Sphere. I'm
What's
reading
his name
one,
again?
Michael Crichton. I'm reading one right now called Airframe. It's awesome. So he's thriller, sometimes science fiction stuff, and he wrote dime detective novels to pay his way through med school. Back in the 60s, and he died. I guess Travis Pastrana is the only one who's not dead.
That's all right.
Yeah, he died in 2008. And I just read his most recent book called Eruption, which was finished by James Patterson. So he's had 3 books post-mortem that one of them was completely done. It just hadn't been published yet. One of them, it was mostly done. That just needed kind of a solid editing. That was Pirate Latitudes. And then this one where he had characters and ideas for this volcano in Hawaii, and James Patterson took those and like wrote a novel out of it. And that one is also awesome. But I mean, obviously Jurassic Park is the creme de la creme, like of popcorn, thriller, sci-fi, high level. Critics love it, but also people love it, right? That's that crossover of critics and audience. But so as an author, I want to match his level of productivity, the amount of books that he has out, the amount of like beloved books. Man, that would be amazing, right? His work ethic, amazing. But then he cracks into the movie business, and he co-writes the screenplay for Jurassic Park with my guy David Koepp, who I also really enjoy as a screenwriter, and he's doing some other like screenwriting and stuff. But then he gets into producing and directing, and I brought it up before, but he's the only guy to have the number one movie, number one TV show, and number one book all at the same time, and he did it twice.
Whoa!
90s. It's insane. And so I love just like this broad scope of like writing, movies, TV show, whatever. But then he also like he writes different. They're all pretty much thrillers, but some of it's science fiction. Some of it is like, you know, the one I'm like reading right now is about building airplanes. And I'm like learning a ton about building airplanes while I'm reading like this thriller novel. It's awesome. So man, freaking, he's so inspiring to me. And just every time I read a book by Crichton, I'm like, this is awesome. And also what I love is that his science fiction books, they're in the genre that I really love, that it's like one step above reality, right? You go, this is normal. And then he takes it like one or two steps further, and you go, I don't think that this is real, but it could be. It could be real. Like Congo is about these these super smart gorillas in deep in the Congo, and they start killing off this explorer group. And when you're reading it, you go, yeah, I could see how there's a band of super smart gorillas that kill off explorers. Yeah, that's no problem. And I love that. The same thing with freaking Jurassic Park. Again, I've said this before, but you start reading it, and he writes it kind of like a documentarian style. You go, hey, there's big things happening in genetics. This happens, and he lists like 4 or 5 documented things that were happening in genetics at the time. And you go, yeah, all those things are happening. And he goes, and then there's this small project happening on an island off of Costa Rica. They found dinosaur DNA. And you go, I think that there might be dinosaurs on an island outside of Costa Rica. Like, this is insane. And you like can connect enough dots that you're like, you go, yeah, and vice versa. Obviously, it's not real. But as soon as someone goes, actually, we found DNA from a mosquito that we found kind of in amber, and we're gonna fill in their DNA with frogs and some other animals, and we can make dinosaurs. You go, yeah, I'm just waiting for it to happen. Even though Jurassic Park is a cautionary tale, and it says, just because you can do something doesn't mean that you should do it. But people don't read it like that. They go, I think we can build dinosaurs. And it's going to be Crichton who wrote it back in 92 that, yeah, there's going to be dinosaurs one of these days. I fully believe it. I fully believe that. All right. That's my Mount Rushmore. And I hope that you're like, that starts to kind of make some sense for Jesse. And there's that last one. I really could go back and forth. Seinfeld might be up there too on, there's definitely comedians and their work ethics and how they like can do stand up, but also like TV shows. Those are all Rushmore adjacent. Mm-hmm. They're like the founding fathers that didn't quite make it,
Okay, I want to share this real quick. So towards the end of that, because I had this idea, and then you started. So I asked ChatGPT,
to
make Mount Rushmore with Bruce Lee, Davey Crockett, Travis Pastrana, and
Michael
Crichton, and it told me no.
They go, we have too much respect for ourselves as an AI software.
So I had to find workaround. So I then put in, give me an image of a BMX bike rider, a karate master, an author, and a pioneer.
Yeah.
And this is what it came up with.
Let's see it.
I don't know what's going on here.
I mean, I like that they just put 4 faces.
Yeah, not even.
And then they put in the other parts. And they go, see, this guy with the helmet, he's a BMX, but the
but the guy with the beard is also a BMX?
Right. Yeah, I don't know. But it is funny because it is Mount Rushmore-esque. And I mean, I guess if you're putting faces on a mountain, it's always going to be Mount Rushmore-esque, but and maybe they didn't know because what if you tried to just say, hey, can you put the images of Travis Pastrana? I think the issue is maybe
people. That doesn't
it's real people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I went their roles.
Gotcha. But how sick would it be to have someone to paint a portrait of all 4 of those guys in the same style? It's quite a project, but to have those framed above your desk, I think that would be so sick. And again, if the guys that inspire me on a regular basis, I get to then just look at those guys.
Yeah, let's see what it's coming up with now.
All right.
Wait, can you see this? Because this is way better.
No, I can't. Take it off and read.
Yeah.
I can only see the old one.
Okay. Let me download it.
Think about
this is way better. Why does that look like Teddy Roosevelt, but with a?
It probably is Teddy Roosevelt.
With a freaking
Have you ever seen Richie Rich, the 90s Disney kids movie?
I know of it. No.
His parents have it. His parents have a Mount Rushmore of them, their family. No. Oh man, that's pretty good. We just gotta have that framed. That's impressive. Oh, dude, I was gonna say I have these signs that are happening in the universe and God, whatever you want to say, or coincidence. I think it just means that I'm on the right path. I was telling you about it, and I meant to bring them today, but I found these comic books of these kids in Australia that are skaters that are running away from Godzilla. So I bought 4 comic books called Godzilla Skate or Die, and I'm this is the book that I'm trying to write right now.
Yeah,
with the exception of Godzilla, but I'm this is so funny that I found something so close to what I'm working on right now.
Wow.
All right, man. Give me one inspiration. Carl already said Jesus. So
dang it, that was mine.
Nope.
I'm sorry, that's all I had.
At least give me C.S. Lewis or something.
C.S. Lewis is great. No, my inspiration is ChatGPT.
Oh my gosh!
I mean, look at this.
And this is pretty awesome. Tyler the Creator. This is the same guy, by the way. This is the same guy, just with you can't quite tell. The guy on the left doesn't have a butt chin, but if he was looking right at the camera and didn't have a bandana, it's the same guy. And then there's 2 different beards.
Yeah.
What are the things flying around?
It's supposed to be birds, but
those look like some sort of mythical creature, which, obviously this is a mythical land. If you haven't seen the picture, if you're not on Spotify, sorry for the last 5 minutes, you don't have any idea what we're talking about. All right. I think that wraps it up.
Yeah.
You don't have a hero?
Everyone's my hero.
What a loser. Wah, wah. All right. Guys, thank you so much for listening to New Way Stories.
Let me get this off the screen.
I hope that you are safe if you are on the west side of the mountains. And hey, have a happy Thanksgiving. And we will be back in a week. I think there's a potential Darius will be in town. We might be able to record live.
Over here on the east side where there is power.
East side. That's right. The one time in our history that our side of the mountains has experienced power, while the other side doesn't. That's a political joke, and it's not bad. It's not bad.
Joke. Aren't you glad that we're keeping natural gas west side? Because you'd be totally screwed.
Well, that's for another podcast entirely. Not even a podcast episode. For a different podcast. All right, guys. Thanks so much for listening. We love you, and I hope that you go out and be inspired. And, yeah, we'll see you later.